Here we go. Hey, welcome back to NDI Central Live here at NAB 2018. Again, we're at the NewTek booth, webcasting all day long. This is our final day, third and final day of webcasting here at NAB. And we have another great user story coming to you now. We've got Joe Christensen, Chief Executive at Blaze Streaming Media.
Hi. Yeah.
How you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thanks for dropping by.
No, my pleasure.
Tell us about Blaze.
Sure. So we actually started about 8 or 9 years ago, and I was in an IT field, and then I discovered the TriCaster, and I was actually being kind of looking for a career, not happy with the complaints and everything else that goes along with IT support, right?
Yep.
And I was looking to apply that technical knowledge to a field where I actually benefited and felt rewarding. And streaming was just kind of becoming really solid. And I mean, it had been going for a long time, I think, but the TriCaster
coming into its own, I guess.
It was coming into its own, and so the TriCaster, frankly, I bought a TriCaster and built a business based solely on that. I really didn't know that I was going into video production. What I really wanted to do was connect people with events that they couldn't go to. And so the TriCaster enabled that. And back then, if you had any capable production, you could basically get front page on Ustream and live stream and whatnot. And so it was really rewarding, and 8 years now, and we're 5 people and about 115 events a year.
Wow. So what kind of projects do you, what's your specialty?
So we're in 2 verticals. We earn our living in the corporate event market. So we're in convention centers and ballrooms and hotels all over the country. And then we do women's roller derby, which is where we don't make...
Because those 2 things go together.
Yeah, it's, relationships, you make friends. And so that's not where we make our living, but it's where we kind of have our our artistic energy, and sports production is really rewarding. I mean, basically anyone with a TriCaster wants to do sports. So yeah, we earn our living in corporate events, and then we do women's roller derby, which has actually done quite well.
Do you do it in one location, or do you travel around with it?
Yeah, so we travel around the world. So in the corporate events, we do a couple trips to Europe and a couple trips to Asia. These are for clients that are based in the States but do a couple events. And then women's roller derby travels as well. Last year, we were in Sweden. This year, we'll be in Spain, but primarily in the States. Frankly, it's hard to make a living if you travel that far. Travel days aren't really revenue days.
Now, are most of these productions for streaming or recording for video on demand, or combination?
They definitely vary. So I would say the opening conversation with a client is actually always streaming. That is our specialty. And so the relationship starts with streaming. And then the client generally matures over time to see the value of on-demand video, recorded video, and what we call capture or lecture capture. So, the company is Blaze Streaming Media, and we love the thrill of live production.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. But we try to actually mature clients so that they're not just live. With live, you have one chance to get that viewer, but with on-demand, you can get them at their time.
Now, you've worked a lot with Connect Spark. And tell us about your experiences with it.
Yeah. So, like a lot of producers, I kind of wait a little while for the gear before I buy it. And so a couple of months ago, we started really studying the Spark and reading the forums and seeing what people were doing with it. And we're really happy with it. We own a dozen or 15 or so Sparks, and we're using them in convention centers to route video to everywhere. The most recent example, we did a medical conference that had 12 rooms that they wanted overflow at a moment's notice. So in these rooms, they're putting slides up on the screen, and they've got audio, and then these rooms go to capacity. And we actually had 4 overflow theaters. So at any time, those 4 overflow theaters could be serving as overflow for any content in the entire conference. The interesting thing was the overflow was actually like a 10-minute walk away. I mean, you could never cable it. I mean, it would have never happened, right?
No, yeah.
And the elegance of the Spark was, you kind of just set it up, talk with the IT team to get what you need out of the venue network, and it's just rock solid. And we've tried multiple products prior to deliver that service, and they always needed babysitting, and then they always you're on pins and needles, because if you got 100 people in a room and it dies, it's stressful, right?
Yeah, I would imagine.
But I can tell you, it worked all week like a champ. And so
the effort really shifts from laying cable all over the place to communicating with the IT department of the facility.
Yeah, it's
the venue,
and even then, as once you get the hang of asking for the right things for NDI to work on that VLAN or that network, it's just frankly, it's an email I copy and paste every time we come into a venue and work with that IT team. But honestly, like, you couldn't cable that. I mean, like, previously the answer would have been, you're not going to have overflow.
Can't happen.
And now we're able to just kind of put a box in, put it in on day one, and ignore it till we load out, and that's been a terrific use of NDI, and maybe a little unexpected, because NDI, everyone's thinking of production and bringing it into your switcher or things like that, and we've actually just found it so useful for moving video around.
So let's get a little geeky. What do you have to tell the IT department?
Sure.
Typically,
so they call it discovery, but basically the network needs to be set up so that devices can see each other.
Okay.
Right? And a lot of times when they set up a VLAN, they turn all that off for security and privacy. It's the same tools that like a Mac is using when it tries to see other devices on the network. So we basically work with them to say, hey, we need discovery, all those protocols turned on, and usually just that sentence.
That's it. Once you do that, you're good to go.
Well, for the most part, if it was done right. I mean, that's traveling. You meet very busy people that maybe they just got your paperwork an hour ago, even though you talked to them 2 weeks ago. So I mean, there's still work to be done to qualify that, and then a lot of times it's not done right. So then you got to allow time to come back and, hey guys, this is what I need. That type of thing.
Got it. So you've been working with NDI in general for a while. How has it changed the way you do things?
I think the value for us is it's mostly tied to the Spark right now. We're actually also using the Spark for recording, but the idea that when I place a device in a room, and because I do mostly multi-room events, so when I come into a convention center, I'm frequently putting in 5 to 10 switchers, TriCasters, and vMix and whatnot. And then the idea that now every one of those is an endpoint and can feed into the other. That functionality, now it's like a client comes and says, we want to route this to here, we want to move the video from this room to that room, or the production, we want to go live from here to here to here, and we're able to say,
no problem.
Sure. And in fact, that client, the medical conference we just came from, we do a set similar to this, and they do live interviews. And at the end, they said, well, can we go live to a session room? And I said, sure, you already have the equipment in there. I mean, you're already putting Sparks in every room. I have no trouble bringing that into our live show now because I've already built that infrastructure.
That's great. It's a great capability to have, and I'm sure it's very satisfying to be able to tell your client, yeah, no problem, we can do that.
It is, and the next thing for us with NDI is learning and using the multicast functionalities. So we're pretty excited about the idea of, and once again, this will be coordination with the IT folks and whatnot, but multi-point delivery is definitely on our radar.
Okay.
And so the multicast functions are going to be great.
What are some of the challenges in when you are doing the roller derby? I would imagine those are different types of facilities.
They are, and we haven't worked in NDI yet. We're giving it a hard look this year. So our Women's Roller Derby is 5 events that take place in the fall. They're week after week. So this is a traveling production that basically we load up the gear and the crew, and I tell them,
you're on the road.
See you next month. And so, you know, the challenge with that, of course, is as an amateur sport, they're doing 3 days of tournaments that are 12 hours before you do any pre-production.
Wow.
So my team is working, you know, and then you do load in and you do travel and whatnot, and these easily become 65-hour weeks. And the challenge, of course, much like any amateur level sporting production, is respecting the budget, respecting the crew. You know, obviously, I mean, honestly, feeding them is job one, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
Any
Gotta
producer,
keep your crew happy.
Yeah, any producer should know. I mean, like, you keep those meals coming, right? And so our challenges with the sport is honestly designing that grueling schedule. Yeah.
And those are TriCaster productions as well?
They are.
Okay.
So it's a TriCaster. It's a 3-play. They're in a nice little rolling fly pack. And then we have a trucking service that basically, as soon as the event's over, 2 hours later, the fly pack goes in someone's truck. Trucking's amazing to me. I don't know how those guys do it. And then it shows up at the next venue. And then we're using Unity Intercom. So that's our comm. We're using an IP-based comm solution. We're definitely ready for NewTek to easily integrate comm. Hint, hint. Because, you know, I've seen some people are getting there, but to see NewTek basically, you know, if we're doing IP-based productions, comm has to travel too, right? So, but yeah, it's a road show based on a TriCaster, and we do. Usually we broadcast to about 80 countries, and you know, I'm not able to give their numbers, but we're in thousands of viewers.
Great.
And it's a season pass, so it's pay-per-view.
How would someone find that webcast?
Yeah, that broadcast would be on WFTDA.tv.
Okay.
So WFTDA.tv.
Okay, great. And how would someone find more information about your company?
Oh, you know, people behind the camera were horrible at marketing, so you would find me at blazestreaming.com, and then frankly, just shoot me an email, joe@blazestreaming.com.
Great. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Rex.
Great hearing about you, and great hearing about all the projects you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great NAB.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to be back after a break with more from NDI Central Live.